Hey guys, this is the Mall Fox here, and today I'm going to show you guys the now closed Santa Rosa Mall, located in Mary Esther, Florida, which closed its doors permanently to the public on September 30th, 2025. Planning for this mall started all the way back in 1973 when Jim Wilson Jr. of Colonial Properties announced plans for a 500,000 square foot mall to be built at the intersection of Mary Esther Boulevard and Hollywood Boulevard. Later, it was announced that the mall would be anchored by JCPenney, Sears, and Gayfers, with room for 65 additional shops, a triple-screen cinema located inside the mall, and a Winn-Dixie supermarket as an outparcel. In February of 1974, it was announced by a city councilman that construction would commence later that year in June, and the mall would be open for business by early 1976. By January of 1975, most of the mall's foundation was complete, and by December, an opening date was announced, February 25th, 1976. JCPenney and Sears opened with the mall on February 25, 1976, along with Morrison's Cafeteria. Dozens of specialty stores, including Zales, Radio Shack, Hanover Shoes, Merle Norman, Jewel Box, Hallmark Cards, Lerner Shops, Kinney Shoes, Chick-fil-A, and Eckerd Drug were present on opening day. The cinema, a 3-screen Ogden Perry Theaters, was described in advertising material as being, quote, "the Miracle Strip's luxurious new showplace, featuring 3 individual cinemas for your viewing pleasure, and freshly popped popcorn dripping in 100% pure creamy butter," end quote. It had its grand opening ceremony on the same day the mall opened and was located inside the mall next to Gayfers. Winn-Dixie, which was an outparcel of the mall, would have their grand opening sometime prior to the rest of the mall complex. Opening last, Mobile, Alabama-based Gayfers, the third anchor of the mall, would open about a year later on February 16th, 1977, completing the anchor roster for the brand new Santa Rosa Mall. Going into the 1980s, the mall was hugely successful, as many malls of the era were. So much so that in 1984, the mall underwent a renovation, modernizing the interior. Then, opening exactly 10 years and 1 day after the mall's grand opening, on February 26, 1986, an expansion was completed, which would add over 265,000 square feet to the mall. This new expansion included a new anchor store, Jackson, Mississippi-based McRae's, a food court, and about 57 other stores, 40 of which were open for the grand dedication of the new wing. Some of the stores present in this new wing at its opening were Bookland, Ruby Tuesday, Casual Corner, Pearl Vision, and Dr. Pet Pet Store. Throughout the 1980s and into the 1990s, history on the Santa Rosa Mall is rather quiet. One major change during this time period, though, was the opening of the United Artists Theaters 10 in the mall's parking lot. This new modern theater was located adjacent to the brand new McRae's building and replaced the older and outdated 3-screen cinema within the mall. I couldn't find the exact opening date for the new cinema, but it appears to have been in fall of 1994. Four years later, in 1998, the first major anchor change at Santa Rosa Mall would occur. The mall's Gayfers was converted to Dillard's alongside the rest of the Gayfers chain. Dillard's purchased the Mercantile Stores Company for $2.9 billion, or about $5.8 billion in 2025 money. At the time of the acquisition, Mercantile Stores operated over 100 different locations under multiple different nameplates, including Gayfers, J.B. White, Maison Blanche, and McAlpin's, all across the United States. To keep this mall relevant in Y2K and beyond, in January of 2000, a renovation was began, to the tune of $7 million. This new renovation would add new flooring, skylights, entrances, and would be a general updating and refreshing of the mall's common areas. This would be the last major renovation the mall would see, leaving it pretty much as you see here today in this video. So, unfortunately, it took me a long time to get down to this mall, and in a way, I guess I kind of missed out on something pretty cool. Down this way, there used to be an entire other wing, like I said earlier, with McRae's and another entrance into Dillard's and a big food court. There also used to be a carousel down there. However, sometime over the last couple of years, they've constructed a wall, and they've walled that off completely, and as you're going to see at the end of this video, they've actually begun demolition on that part of the mall. And this mall has a very 1990s aesthetic. I mean, peep that old software, etc. that we just panned over. But the coolest part of the mall, I think, was demolished already, and so it took me a while to finally come down here, but when I heard it was closing, I knew that it was now or never. So I showed up. So what we're looking at now is in the former K Jewelers. I guess to prevent anybody from taking these, they've busted the glass on all the showcases. In 2001, Santa Rosa Mall boasted such tenants as Gap, American Eagle Outfitters, Old Navy, and Victoria's Secret. However, that same year, trouble was brewing on the horizon. Half an hour away, in the growing community of Destin, a major retail complex was announced. To be named Destin Commons, this new retail center, developed by Turnberry Associates, would open in 2003, featuring Belk, Bass Pro Shops, and a 14-screen Rave Cinemas, along with upscale stores such as the Sharper Image, Abercrombie & Fitch, Bombay Company, Chico's, and Joseph A. Bank. While this new lifestyle center didn't immediately kill Santa Rosa Mall, it certainly would foreshadow the repositioning of major chain retail that would come in the not-so-distant future. Kind of an eerie shadow of this is, right before Destin Commons opened, Jim Wilson Associates, the mall's original developer, sold the mall for $52 million to New York-based Radiant Partners LLC. This group owns today a couple of middling malls in the United States, and they used to own a few more. But now, the Santa Rosa Mall was owned by an out-of-state and out-of-region entity. On July 5th, 2005, Belk purchased 47 Profits and McRae's stores from Saks Incorporated's Southern Department Store Group, including the location at Santa Rosa Mall. Subsequently, the McRae's was rebranded as a Belk on March 8th, 2006, marking the second anchor change at the Santa Rosa Mall. By this time, reports of the mall beginning to struggle were already making their way around, as stores would slowly start leaving the mall. Something really quickly I want to point out is there's actually a radio station hosted in this mall, Freedom 94.3, and I think there's another one too, in that storefront that we just looked at. And this storefront right here to our right, that is most assuredly the old arcade. It looks just like an Aladdin's castle, but if I'm wrong, correct me in the comments. So in my videos, if I'm not local to somewhere, I don't want to ponder about why an area or a mall has declined, because I feel like that's not my concern. However, I did do some digging about this area. A few locals online have mentioned that Mary Esther and Fort Walton Beach overall have declined, with restaurants, chain stores, and things to do here that they held dear not being around anymore. Some of these things, of course, are not the fault of the area itself. There's nothing anybody in Mary Esther can do about Party City, for instance, going bankrupt and closing every single store. But maybe there's some credence to these people's cries. Winn-Dixie, a beloved grocery store here, just recently closed both of their locations nearby, and one was replaced by an Aldi, to the behest of some people due to the lack of variety Aldi has to an actual grocery store. No offense, but I don't really like Aldi either. Some locals have generally stated that everything in the area is now a gas station, an overpriced apartment complex, or a self-storage facility. And obviously that's a sweeping statement, but perhaps there's at least some truth to it. After all, the former Sears at Santa Rosa Mall is currently, as of recording, a self-storage facility, and Belk was demolished some years ago for apartments that opened around 2020. From what I've seen, most locals detest having to drive to Pensacola or Destin to go shopping, but for whatever reason, the mall here with the stores one will find at these other places failed. Perhaps it has to do with the fact that the dominant employers in this area are the Eglin Air Force Facility, as well as other governmental positions in healthcare and education. Usually armed service jobs have temporary populations with little expendable income, and that could be a factor. It could also be so that the New York-based owner who bought the mall in 2003 always planned for the mall to fail, to later redevelop the land into something more profitable. I can theorize all I want, however I am not from this area, and I'd be curious to hear from locals in the comments as to why this mall died and if the area is indeed going downhill. By the time of the 2010s, anchor closures would do this declining mall in. In December of 2013, Belk announced the closure of their Santa Rosa Mall store for undisclosed reasons, choosing to instead focus on their Destin Commons location. The Belk store would close in late January 2014. Then, in late 2018, Sears, which had operated at the mall since opening day, would close, ending their entire service run in the area. Eventually, a self-storage place would take up refuge in the old Sears, which you're going to see right now. Additionally, as I say, as a part of the infamous 154 store closing wave, JCPenney closed their doors in 2020. Finally, Dillard's would downgrade their store to a clearance center before closing it in 2023 and being demolished by the Wrecking Ball in 2025, leaving the Santa Rosa Mall without a traditional anchor store. As I just said, in March of 2025, it was announced that the food court wing and Dillard's building, both of which had been closed for some time, would be demolished to make way for something new. This would go in conjunction with the announcement in late July that the entire mall would close at the end of September for redevelopment. As of publishing this video, finalized plans have not materialized, but expect a typical live, work, and play environment, a lifestyle center, with small retail, more residential, and possibly light office. So what we're looking at now is the demolition progress of the big center food court and Dillard's wing of the mall, which used to look super 1980s. It had some really cool tile on the floor, and a very cool center court. There was a carousel, and also a really cool neon sign that if you Google Santa Rosa Mall neon sign, you can find pretty easily on Google. Really sad that that part of the mall has been demolished, and it's kind of a big reason why I never came down here earlier. I only came down here in September, and again, really sad that that was probably the coolest part of this mall and it no longer stands, but I guess it's good that there's going to be some progress here on something new for the community. This might go without saying, but in case any future generations happen to stumble into this video, malls like this were a staple of American culture throughout the 1960s into the early 2000s, with many people seeing their first movie, playing their first video game in an arcade, having their first kiss, or buying their first suit and tie at the mall. Malls were such a staple of American culture and American youth, and it seems society in general has shifted away from the third place. Which, a third place is defined as somewhere that isn't home or work, where you could gather and spend time and socialize with people. Doesn't seem to really be a thing anymore, at least with malls. But to see another place get torn down that was so special to so many people is always a sad sight. But I'm glad I was finally able to come down here and document it before it was too late. and hopefully the future development will be good for the people of this community. But that's gonna basically conclude my video on the Santa Rosa Mall, located in Mary Esther, Florida. It's gonna be really sad to see this place go. If you guys enjoyed this video and you want to see more, consider subscribing to this YouTube channel and leave me a like on this video to show your support. Leave me a comment down below if you guys have any fond memories here at the Santa Rosa Mall, or if you guys just want to leave me a nice comment to read. And otherwise, stay tuned for the next mall video.